Welcome back. Today, I have the most amazing guest. She is known as the intimacy expert to millions. We're going to dive into everything that is pleasure, passion, connection, safety. She's a speaker, one of the most prolific authors. She has courses to help people guide them into a better, deeper, more connected sex life. And her knowledge and passion is beyond compare. So welcome to A Lighthouse in the Dark. Susan Bratton, welcome.
Michael, I love the name of your show, Lighthouse in the Dark. It's so funny. I have been working on an acceptance speech because I plan for success and I am up against some tough competition, but I've been nominated for Sex Educator of the Year. And so I'm like, well, I'm the GOAT. Maybe I'll win.
Yeah.
And so I've been working on the acceptance speech, and a part of it is how sex educators are lighting the darkest part of our lives through our education, and that we are not necessarily, it's not a career, it's a devotion. And I really feel like what I do is a devotional practice to healing the wounds of shame and the fear that comes from a lack of knowledge and information, which is censorship and suppression. And so I just love when shows like yours, who are very heartfelt and growth oriented, that's kind of my people. Because most people just give up on their sex lives. They think sex is intercourse and that's all it is, and they don't know how to talk about it, and it's a very repetitive kind of a thing. Well, that's actually procreation, not lovemaking. And so writing hundreds of techniques and bedroom communication skills and what I would have called intimate wellness, but now I'm actually calling regenerative intimacy, because that even expands the benefits of fighting for your sex life till the day you die, where you want to be on an upward pleasure spiral where sex keeps getting better and better over time instead of swirling down the toilet like most people. And it keeps you younger, healthier, and happier longer. It literally adds years of health and happiness to your life. And so this repression and suppression that we're under is actually kind of enslaving us to shopping, consuming television, consuming social media, rather than having intimate pleasure with our partners. And the more I can do to find my people, like your audience, which is expansive, open to growth, that's the mindset it takes to be one of those people who's like, sex is as good for you as like your nutrition, your weight-bearing exercises, and your sleep recovery? Whoa, tell me the science behind that. That's landing for people in a way that it never has. So thank you for having me.
Yeah, I'm thrilled. You actually kind of touched on something. I think people see you now, and they make the assumption that you were always this person, or that sex was always easy for you. And that can't be further from the truth from what I've done research. Tell me about how you got into this. Let's talk about you a little before we really dive into all the details of how to help everybody else. Let's talk about you for a moment. How did you become this version of you?
Yeah, a couple of things. One, I always wanted to have good sex, and it felt very elusive to me. By the time I was in my early 30s and I met my husband, we had pretty good sexual connection, and I thought, oh, this is great. Not only is he so brilliant and so kind and loving, and he loves my ambition. He doesn't try to oppress me. He's the wind beneath my wings, and he's great in bed with me. But I married him, and the problem was that we were the blind leading the blind behind closed doors. It's the dark. That's the darkness. Those bedrooms all across the world where nobody knows nothing except the most basic things, and everything we see, and not as much 30 years ago or 20 years ago, 25 years ago about now for us. But that was kind of the beginning of the pornography era. But now it's like everything is degrading to women. I mean, like the choking and all this disgusting stuff, you know?
And more extreme, weird scenarios. And
exactly.
I will say this as somebody who grew up in film and television, is I think we've done a disservice to the world because we've perverted what sex looks like, partially because in film and television we're on the clock and there's a used to be called censorship in when I first started. Now it's standards and practices. Somebody stands over there and it's like a little too much side boob, little too much friction. Like, we need you to space that. Now with intimacy coordinators, it's even more. And then it's like, okay, this has to all happen in 30 seconds in this film or this television project, which gives everybody the wrong idea about intimacy.
Exactly. Movies and TV are just porn light, but we never see any examples of female-led pleasure. When the female body gets the arousal that she needs, the time and attention, the trust and safety, the novelty and the variety, and she opens to her pleasure, her male partner is happier than he's ever been. What he wants most is to give us incredible pleasure, but we're all in the dark because of the censorship. So one of the great things, and why I appreciate so much being invited on your show, is not just the mindset of your audience, but the opportunity for us to have a fully uncensored conversation. I don't know how long it's going to last, Michael. I don't know, because they're turning the screws on censorship today in our government and across the big social platforms. The screws are screwing.
Oh yeah,
But,
shadow banning, getting restricted. It's all happening currently. I'm doing everything to fight it, as are you. And
yeah,
we have to have these conversations because they're the things that keep people free and people open and people able to grow.
yes. So what happened with my husband and I was that I really never had an orgasm from intercourse. I didn't know how to do it. And I thought that it was just me. I just thought I couldn't do it. And my husband was like, well, I still want to have intercourse. Like, that's what we're doing when we're married. And I dutifully had intercourse with him and tried to get what I could out of it for over a decade. And I just was avoiding him for sex. I was doing mercy sex and duty booty. And I think a lot of people, as I say those words, often female-bodied partners, because it's not men's fault. It's just that we're stuck in this paradigm that we're trying to get out of, which is very repressive. We just don't see heart-connected, passionate, conscious, fully present love-making, super hot, connected sex that leads us to co-creative, ecstatic bliss that doesn't just prioritize intercourse. It teaches us how to become massively multi-orgasmic from intercourse. It teaches men that they can have as many different kinds of orgasms as women can, and that it's unlimited, but there are more than 20 kinds of orgasms the human body can have. And so when a sex expert gets up on a stage and says, hey, if you can't have an orgasm from intercourse, don't worry about it. It's just nice to be close to your husband. I'm like, bitch, try that for 10 years. It gets old. So we ended up seeing therapists. They couldn't really tell us what to do. Now, decades later, we have sexologists, we have sex therapists, we have ASECT, we have the Science Sexual Health Alliance, we have an educational infrastructure that's churning out incredible educators. But we didn't have that back then. We had marriage therapists, and it was like the doctors of today who literally go to medical school and the textbooks don't even have accurate genital anatomy for women in them. So we're still in this weird phase where we have the rise of porn, the textbooks are still wrong, it's an imperfect
the anatomy
situation.
hasn't even really been mapped. I mean, we can talk about how the anatomy works and even the numbers that we use. Like, they say for women there's 8,000 nerve endings, but that study isn't even based on humans,
pigs.
right? It's on pigs, right?
Porcine.
Yeah.
Now we do know it because of nerve-sparing genital surgeries for trans folk. It's 10,000 now, roughly 10,000. So highly innervated member of our body. But what's interesting is that people are still really focused on the tip of the clitoris. Like, you've got to touch the tip of the clitoris if you want to have an orgasm. I'm like, no. The clitoris is literally 3 different erectile tissue structures that the spongy tissue in them is as much as is in our male partner's penises. And you know how that goes from just a little thumb, especially if it's cold, to a impressive staff, a man cannon. Well, that's exactly what's inside our female bodies, but we women don't even know that it takes us 20 minutes versus the 2 minutes of our partner to get fully engorged and to get our lady erections, our clitoral erections. But they're really clitoral, urethral, perineal sponges that wrap around the vaginal pocket, and women hardly ever get enough arousal, things that they need to get aroused and get that tissue filled up sex is over before they even get there. And so you wonder why a woman like me ends up thinking that maybe I need, that my husband wants to divorce me because I can't have an orgasm from intercourse, so I don't want sex. And sex is only intercourse. It was like we were caught in that thing. And I know so many people who have been caught in that whole thing.
Can I ask you right there real quick?
Yeah.
How frustrating was that? Because did you feel like there was something wrong with you? Did you feel like you were
shame.
being cheated of the full experience? Did he feel like was there frustration on his part? Because all of those things I
God,
think are natural.
Yeah, well, he was having an affair to get his needs met. I was deeply ashamed of myself. We thought it was my problem. So then, Michael, we go to sex workshops because the therapist couldn't help us. And we went to our first sex workshop. It was Sex, Love, and Intimacy by the Human Awareness Institute. We did level 1, and it blew our frickin' minds. We went on to do pretty much all the levels of that. We went to ecstatic loving tantra workshops. We went to orgasmic meditation. We started going to so many different things, but it was really amazing how quickly we realized there was nothing wrong with me. We just didn't understand the recipe for orgasmic intercourse. And so we just started doing it. We're like, oh my God, we had a renaissance. We came back together. It was incredible. And I've just celebrated my 35th year with this man, and my sex life is better than it's ever been. And so it's really nice to know that sex can keep getting better if you get the information. The minute you learn it and apply it, it works. Human bodies are an operating system, and when you get the right inputs, there's not a darn thing wrong with any of us. We can all do all these things. It might take a little practice. You try it the first time, it's okay, I see where we're going with this. The second one, you're like, I'm getting more comfortable. The third time, you're like, I think it's going to happen. And then the fourth time, you're like, oh my God, now I'm there was nothing wrong with me. I just didn't know what I needed. So one of the things I want to give your listeners right now, before I forget, is a collection of my 10 best orgasmic intercourse techniques that give not only the penis, but the vagina, the vulva, the vulvovaginal system, the CUV, clitoral urethral vaginal system, the yoni, Y-O-N-I, my favorite 4-letter word, the tantric love-making word for the female genitals, gives that system what it needs to come, because we have different arousal structures. And so that's at orgasmicintercourse.com. And it gives you the 10 techniques so you can try them one by one. And what's neat about that is that you can try anything in any order, because sex techniques are a vast landscape. I've written 1,000 of them. And you can jump in anywhere that appeals to you. So if you're like, oh, let's try glissando, or oh, let's try the heart-tongue method, or let's try crouching tiger, squatting dragon. Once you try them and you can start to activate all of the different areas of the yoni, I'll just use that word, I like it, it's very reverential. Then you start having success, and then she starts coming, and now she knows there's nothing wrong with her. And then you're like, well, what about oral? Well, what about anal? Well, what about kissing? Well, what about breast play? Like, we need to learn all those things, which is great, but there is one foundation piece that success rests on that is not a sex technique.
Is this based on safety and like communication?
Yes.
Yeah.
Good job.
I would tell people foreplay starts at the end of the last time as you build to the next time, but none of that happens if you can't engage the brain and like have a real conversation, because the deeper conversation creates the trust and the base level for the connection that you need. We're not just robots, and it's not just procreation, right?
And we're different every day.
Yeah, and bodies change over time. That's the other part of the beauty of being with somebody long term, is you get to explore and play and learn how the body is changing and change together and find new ways to please each other.
Yeah, it's exactly right. And most women, and I'm going to generalize here because human sexual response is a big bell curve, though the operating system works the same, though some people have found the pain pathway to pleasure versus the pleasure pathway generates the endorphins and things like that. It's still the same operating system, but the issue is that generally most women think, I don't know what I want, I just know what I'm getting isn't it. And if I say anything to him, he shuts down, he crashes out, he takes it as failure. So I just keep my mouth shut and put up with it. That's a recipe for disaster. So that's why whenever I have an opportunity to tell people, the number one thing you must learn is how to know what you want and how to safely be able to express it to each other, and to understand that you live in an animal body, and it has to deal with the vagaries of female moon cycles even after menopause. It has to deal with sleep and nutrition and energy levels, mitochondrial function, how you feel about them outside the bedroom, your emotional situation. Are you depressed, or how do you feel? All these things, they really come into it. So when we can get, especially our male body partners, our men, to understand, to get hungry for your feedback, to be like, how's this, babe? Yeah, tell me more. And to encourage you to really feel into what you want. And even if you can't find the words, do your best and figure it out together. And then that encourages him to speak up for what he desires, what he wants, what'll feel good to him. That's very important too. And men, they just want to do such a good job pleasing us that they often don't get to ask for their own needs. They're still just trying to do the right thing. And when they're trying to do that without enough to go on, now they're in this kind of performative mindset, which is what creates most premature ejaculation, which affects 25% of men at every age. So that creates problems too when he doesn't feel like he has ejaculatory choice, when he doesn't feel like he has the opportunity to last as long as you want him to, and then you're begging him to come. And so I think the communication technique is very important. And for any of your listeners who want access to that, the link to that is Sexual Soulmate Pact, PACT.com. And that's like an agreement between lovers. Print it out, hand it to your partner, and begin the practice of opening and expanding your communication, because after you learn that, you can move to dirty talk, saying what you see, sharing frames. There are moaning. There are many things that open the throat in the bedroom, and the throat being open now you can have throatgasms, right? I mean, that is a fantastic kind of an orgasm. So it's really important to find your voice in the bedroom, and this is the technique that's been handed down to me by one of my mentors, that I think is the Sexual Soulmate Pact is the foundation. Communication is the foundation to hot sex that keeps getting better. So that's another asset for your crew if they'd like to learn the most important things.
We were talking about connection, and I know all over the internet, people love to talk about the 5 love languages. Yeah. And they love to talk about like affirmation and physical touch and gifts and acts of service. You have kind of coined a new version that I think people really need to lean into, which is the 5 lust languages. Yeah. So I'd love, like the first one, fearless feedback, which is what you were kind of touching on.
Yes.
Let's start there, because I think sex is still taboo in so many ways. And I think so many of us grow up psychologically with this restriction, or culturally,
shame,
where society has asked us to be very, like, look, there's going to be people who are going to have their mind blown that I'm having this conversation because they know me as like DJ on Roseanne, right? So they're going to see the little kid having a sex conversation. Like, I got adult children and like, I'm a healthy, happy person. So if you can't handle that, you're going to have to come along with it. But part of this is like, to have fearless connection and conversation. How do you set the framework for that, Susan?
By the way, Michael, you turned out so handsome. Not that you weren't an adorable young man, but God, you turned out to be a handsome guy. Like, there's no question you should be an LA actor. You look like an LA actor. Yeah, it's funny. The 5 love languages, I never really liked them not because I didn't think they were a good idea, but Gary Chapman was a pastor, and he used it to kind of manipulate his wife and the women of his organization, and everyone saw through that and didn't like it. University of Toronto, some researchers just wrote a paper in a sexuality clinical guide. They posted a paper that basically negated the whole construct of 5 love languages. And they said they're all important. And that was the thing I never liked about it, was that people felt like they had to pick, oh, like mine's words of affirmation. Oh, no, mine's all the things. Give me them all. I want intercourse, I want oral, I want hugging, I want kissing, I want breast play. I want all 5 of the love language too. Like I am
I want you to do
pig
active
for
service
life.
beforehand, so I don't have to be stressed about stuff, so I can clear my head, so I can actually focus in the bedroom.
Exactly. So when I wrote up the 5 lust languages, what I really felt was that, yes, we need to keep romancing our partners to even have desire for them. Because if you think about libido, desire, and arousal, libido is your health. And when your health isn't good, your desire for sex is just not there. Desire is, how do you feel about yourself emotionally, and how do you feel about your partner? And that's where the love language kind of stuff comes in. If they're really not even trying to create an experience for lovemaking, if they're just like waiting around for you to ask for sex or whatever because they don't want to be rejected, it's a non-starter. When I wrote my 5 love languages, I came up with I put the 5 things down that I think, after 20 years of teaching passionate lovemaking and bedroom communication skills, what are the 5 things that really create that foundation for a couple to get on the upward pleasure spiral where sex keeps getting better? And when I laid it all out, I was like, oh, I can spell flesh out of this as the acronym. So it's FLESH. And I'm like, oh, I like that.
Oh, yeah.
So the F, the fearless feedback, is exactly what we were just talking about with the sexual soulmate pact. And that is that the hungrier you are for feedback, the better your sex gets. Because one of the examples of, once you can ask for what you need, your partner is like, oh yeah, totally, that sounds great. Or you hop into bed and you're like, I don't know, we'll see if we can get there. We'll see if we can get me there. Let's see if we can get me aroused. Like, I've been so busy all day, but I am willing to give it a shot. You get there and you're like, I'm kind of in the mood to do this and this tonight. And then you start the first thing, and then you're like, no, I don't want to do that second thing. I want to do this instead. Like, being able to have that feeling that the next moment is just a curiosity of your desire in the moment, and where do you want to go? Instead of thinking that there's this preordained train that's leaving the station when you're on it, your job is to get an erection, penetrate her, have an ejaculation, and go make a sandwich. And God, you hope she comes. Like, that's boring. That's the monotony of monogamy that they talk about, where there's plenty of trust and safety, but there's really no novelty and variety. And so the sexual soulmate pact is really that whole idea of having this fearlessness around hearing anything and everything that your partner wants to say to you, because it's just about what's going on for them right now, and it makes life juicy. It's very similar to having a relationship of complete and total honesty, not withholding, sugarcoating, walking on eggshells, stuffing it, all the things our culture teaches us to do, which are stupid, and they destroy our emotional body. And when you move toward a commitment toward honesty together, it makes your relationship so much juicier, and you get to do the work of processing your issues together, and that matures you. And when you can bring that into the bedroom, it's even hotter.
And there's a feedback portion of this that sometimes this feels really good right now.
Yeah.
And if that's not, like, as someone who writes the ingredients and the lessons of how to make the best recipe for sex, because that's something that you're known for.
Yeah.
Anybody who's really good at making any recipe knows sometimes you got to deviate from the recipe a little, or some days it's a little different, right?
Exactly.
So if you have feedback, then your partner feels safe to turn to you and be like, no, more of that right now. Or like, this is driving me crazy right now. I'm extra sensitive. Please continue.
Yeah.
As opposed to you trying to just move through the steps to get to a finish line. And that's the other part. Like, people are so worried, I think, sometimes that either they're not going to finish or that it's not going to work out because they never had the conversation piece of it.
Yeah.
If you can have the feedback, it's like, I want more of you. Nothing feels better than for somebody to tell you that they want more of you.
Yes, right? To be
wanted. They don't get that chance if we can't have real feedback. talk about a love space, right? Because the L in flesh is love space, right?
Yeah, lover space. This was taught to me by my mentor, Dr. Patty Taylor. I've been teaching something called the expanded orgasm practice for decades. My husband has spent over 1,000 hours stroking my clitoris with this 5-stroke technique. It is the mechanism that allowed me to become orgasmic from intercourse without even touching my clitoris at all. And what you do is you set the nest, you create the lover space so that when you're learning this practice, so that your woman can just enter the scene, take off her clothes, lie down and relax so that she doesn't have another thing to do. Oh, I need to fold that laundry before I can relax, or I need to do whatever, the bed is a mess, or for example, just as a way to explain it, I went over to see my girlfriend last week, and I said to my husband, because we're both busy entrepreneurs, and I said to him, I'll be home around 7:15. Do you want to have a date? That means a lovemaking date. That looked like a good time on your calendar. He's like, definitely. I said, will you mind setting up the nest, and I'll be home? And he's like, of course. This is what he does. He's just learned to take that off my plate and create the conditions for my surrender to pleasure, because it takes me a lot longer to shift and switch out of my active beta state and into that theta brainwave state, which is meditation and orgasm. You have to be relaxed for your arousal to climb. So taking that off my plate does two things. One, it shows me he's committed to doing something that allows me to surrender to my pleasure. He's taken it off my plate. He's got it handled. He's showing masculine sexual leadership. And essentially what that looks like for us, and your mileage may vary, is he, in our bedroom, which is gorgeous, I've built it to be so beautiful. I've got a ceiling that retracts so I can see the sky and the sequoias above me. I've got mirrored wall of closets. I've got a fireplace with a click of the button. I've got warm lighting that isn't white. It's this, kind of sexy lighting. We've got bedside tables with glass on them so lubes never mess them up. We've got stacks of towels in the closet. We've got our lay down Liberator waterproof sheets. He's got his Zafu little meditation cushion he sits up on. So when we get into the doing position, which is doing stands for deliberate orgasm. It's a part of the expanded orgasm practice. He's the giver, I'm the receiver. And he gets that. He puts on these little Japanese cotton fisherman pants because then his leg hair doesn't scratch my belly when he puts his leg over me to stroke me. And he wears a t-shirt just so he's comfortable. He's got his little pillow behind his back. He gets a pitcher of water and a couple of glasses. He lays out the lubes. He lays out my favorite sex toys. He's got a stack of towels. He puts on music, or he waits for me to choose what I want that sounds good to both of us. And so I walk into that and he's ready to go. He's already showered, he's shaved, he's manscaped, he's filing his fingernails because he's touching my delicate genitals and they are clean as a whistle. And he's ready to go. He's showing me that he is in service to the goddess and her pleasure. And that really works for me and for both of us because he doesn't have to make me an offer for sex, which is too big an offer. He knows that if I lay down and he gets his hands on me 95 times out of 100, I'm going to be like, well, now here's what I'd like to do. And I may lay there for 15 minutes, bringing myself back to my sensation to get out of my head and into my body. And other times he puts his hands on me and I go skyrocket right into orgasm. It's always going to be different. And he doesn't have any need for anything to happen or not happen. He is in the flow state, connected to me in pleasure and just enjoying watching my arousal blossom. And every time he does this yoni massage and clitoral stroking with me, which is really what helps me, sometimes when I'm done with that, I want to have him hold me in his arms and connect with him. Sometimes I want to go down on him. Sometimes I want to jump his bones. Sometimes I want to try out a new vibrator or a new sex position. There's always something I want, and he's very flexible about following my lead. And once in a while, I'm like, I don't know what I want. Can you run me an offer? Can you run me a menu? Just come up with 3 or 4 or 5 things that sound really good. And he'll run through a whole menu and I'll go, no, I don't like those, but here's what I want to do. He's like, okay, that sounds good. Like, it's a joyful surprise to see what this little animal I live in is craving. And he's just there to give it to me. And I just think that is such a nice construct that most people, especially women, never get the opportunity to explore. So thank you for letting me tell you about that, because when he sets that lover space, I get to relax. And if that 5% where I'm like, I just can't get off the dime, babe, I need you to just let me roll over and go to sleep and tuck me in. And he just pulls the sheet and the cover right up over my little shoulder and tucks me in and kisses me goodnight. And he's never mad about it, because the more opportunities he uses to create that haven, that lover space for me, the higher frequency of sex he gets. So he knows what to do and he just does it.
Yeah, and there's this beauty of building that anticipation, building the environment. I mean, right now there's a bunch of people with notepads, like just taking feverish notes, which I think is great. Part of this is creating the space for true sexual exploration and joy together, right?
Yeah.
You set the stage. He gets the anticipation. He's definitely going to be ready. You get to let go of all the other things. The anticipation builds. It's also, you've created there's nothing better than creating an environment. Yeah. I remember I was in a relationship with somebody who had a really stressful, she had a really high profile job, and she had family stuff, and she had been divorced, and there were exchanges with kids and all of this stuff going on in the world. She needed to walk in the door and have the whole place a little dimmer, a little warmer, candlelight, things laid out, leading to the room. The room was special, and these spaces have to be designed for pleasure, and then not applying the pressure of this is what has to happen. And you'll end up with way more than you ever anticipated happening usually, because it's that's when the joy happens.
Yes, exactly. It really is. I know. That lover space is so delightful.
So then the next step is erotic vigilance.
Yes.
Let's talk about the E.
Yeah, this is so interesting because I was recently on a women's pleasure and embodiment summit with a bunch of sex educators, and it was the woman who put on the summit. She picked all my favorite people, and I listened to all of the things that they were talking to about women. And they were giving all these great ways to become more embodied, to get over shame, to feel good about yourself, to relax, to, get in the headspace of lovemaking. And I thought to myself, these are all really good things. What could their male-bodied partner do, or any partner? What could their partner do to help them when they're going through all this healing of the shame and the repression that's happened to pretty much anybody who's lived in our world? You can't escape it. We're swimming in it. What could he do? Because what I really like to do often is help men support their women in their sexual growth and healing by providing encouragement and worshiping them and taking some of the load and making smaller offers and all this kind of thing. And the small offers is actually a part of a program that I publish. So the 44 books and programs, I've written 34 of them, and I'm working on my 35th right now. But 10 of them are the work of my mentors whose lineages I carry on, like the expanded orgasm practice. And Dr. Patty wrote me a program called Seduction Trilogy. It's 3 books, which have audiobooks, that teach men the 4 keys to seduction with integrity. How to move your woman toward more pleasure and connection. And there are 4 keys to seduction. The first one is understanding how to make smaller offers, not just asking for sex, and when she says no because she's not in that headspace, you take it as, your failure or rejection. You get pissed, you get grumpy. This is a very, very common phenomenon in the world of men because men are raised in a shitty environment of a pecking order. They need to win. If they're not on top, they're on the bottom. It makes them feel bad about themselves, which is why women don't speak up in the bedroom either.
And all or nothing. Like,
All or nothing,
like
right? Yeah,
it's either
exactly.
sex or nothing, right? Like,
Exactly. So true, Michael. The second of the four keys is something called erotic vigilance. And it really helps with both partners, especially when partners feel embarrassed about asking to be close because they feel like they might get rejected. It goes both ways. But the erotic vigilance is something that none of the women talking to women mentioned that I wanted to teach men, which is this idea that you have to assess where your woman is in the moment that you're about to make her offers. So you can scale the offers to where she is. So an offer would be different for a woman who's in a bad mood, or you've had a fight with her, or she's upset and kind of anxious and like flighty, or she is like using food to, kind of compensate for her anger and frustrations and things like that, or her sadness. Or maybe she's in the mood for sex and she's like kind of ready to go. You've got to be able to notice that as well. You don't want to overlook that. And so the idea is to really pay attention to where your woman is so that the offers you make are the right sized offers. Having a repertoire of options that you can provide. And one of the things that I give away to teach people how to have good offers and to give them examples of right-sized offers is at moresexmoreoften.com. That's a free download that shows you what kinds of offers we're talking about so that you can leverage this erotic vigilance and just really tune into her.
talk about soulmate embrace.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's the S. One of the biggest issues, as we've talked about, is women's arousal ladder is kind of this heavy lift in the beginning. She's got to get out of her mind and into her body. She's estrogen dominant, not testosterone dominant. So she is really multitasking. She's always got her eyes are like 360 peripheral vision. She doesn't walk in the world safely. We've learned that now. Women do not feel safe in our society at all anymore.
Well, I think, I don't mean to cut in, but I do want to make this point because I don't think men, going back to the communication part of this, most men don't realize how unsafe women feel regularly.
They're starting to.
Unless you've really had that conversation. I also think being a dad of daughters gives you a different perspective.
Yeah.
But I think until you really realize or listen to how much women go through on a daily basis, you don't understand that fear level and that constant engagement and worry and hypervigilance that's just necessary in our world.
Exactly. So that hypervigilance is what we need you to attenuate as our lovers. And the very best way to do that is to offer and to learn how to do a holding technique that I call the soulmate embrace. And this is really a way that women have been dying to be held their whole lives and weren't really even aware it was possible. It is also a way of holding a woman that gives a man a real confidence boost because he's providing that safety and security of his physical body, holding this woman and allowing her to just slow her heart rate and to, calm her nervous system, to speak anything out that she wishes she could say and needs to get off her chest before she can kind of let go of it, process things. And he's just there to listen and hold her. He doesn't need to fix it. He's a witness to her frustrations. She can let them go that way and get them out instead of stuffing them and they're still existing in there. And then he doesn't let go. And there's a certain position you hold her in, a very certain way of holding and how to use your hands slowly over time as she starts to soften and let go. At first, many women tell me that when they start this practice of the soulmate embrace, it's like they have fight, fright sensations. One woman described it as sewing machine legs, where she had like restless legs, like she couldn't settle for the first 3 or 4 times her husband held her this way because she was just go all the time and she couldn't relax. And they practiced and practiced. And now she told me that she pretty much wants to be held like this every day. That often it's what they do, not even before lovemaking, but just like on the sofa, jump in bed for 10 minutes, just when she needs that connection. So I really love for people to download that little PDF. It's funny, I didn't realize how many links I was going to give you today, but I really like to give people the links because there's going to be something in this flesh framework that they're going to be like, that's the thing I want to do.
Susan, give them all. We want them all.
Thank you. And I do have so much free content. I really, you can tell I'm here to heal have the world if possible. So the soulmate embrace.
If people had more sex, good sex, it would heal the world because it is kind of divinely healing. And I think we underestimate that. And I think it's really healing for men when they do it right, as opposed to trying to take it, earn it, and create it and shape it. The world is better that way.
Yes. Oh, Michael, I sure would like you to hold me in your arms. That would be nice. You look like a good holder and hugger. Yeah, so that's at soulmateembrace.com.
Perfect.
You don't mind that I'm flirting with you, do you?
No, by all means. Listen, I am a voracious flirt. I love it. I think,
me too.
Listen, life without passion wouldn't be much of a life at all. So by all means, but that brings us to the H, which is heat, right? So
you got to end on the high note, on the hot note, right? Exactly. And heat is okay. We talked about trust and safety, and we talked about novelty and variety. The first four things cement that trust and safety, right? You can say what you want, you can get things off your chest, you have time to get aroused, you're willing to try, you're lifting the burden. All of those things were really trust and safety. So now, once you develop that foundation, how do you get sex to get hotter and hotter and hotter and hotter and hotter together? And it does. I mean, trust me, when you start to learn new things together, which is what heat is, it's essentially a sex life bucket list where you have a bunch of ideas of new things you want to do. As a matter of fact, I just handed my husband a new vibrator that I want to try. And it's got 3 different vibrations in it. One of them is a vibrating head, one is a vibrating handle, and then there's this little tail that comes off of it that vibrates too. And I'm like, I figured out how to turn it on. Let me show it to you because I will forget in my turn on theta brainwave state. You got to operate the machinery for me, Daddy. And I want you to play with me with this today. Let's just play with this. And he's like, okay, cool. This sounds fun. And I'm like, and don't forget, I want to do that fucking vibrator this week too. There's this fantastic vibrator that's used for intercourse where it's a little vibrator that it actually lays on the mons above her clitoris and taps right onto the clitoral shaft and the clitoral tip, but it leaves the vagina open for intercourse. And then and it comes either with a harness or this little silicone pad that holds it right on. It's hands free. And he gets this little ring with a little magnet on it that he puts down at the base of the shaft of his penis. And it's a proximity sensor. So while he's making love with her, as he gets closer and deeper inside her, the vibrator goes, and then as he pulls out, it slows down a little, like that. And that toggles her sympathetic and parasympathetic nervous system in a way that makes her intensity and number of orgasms increase during lovemaking. It's really good for people who haven't had orgasms from intercourse and want that bridge to train their neural pathways to having orgasms from a penis or a toy inside them. But it's also just a really fun lovemaking date toy. And so toys, positions, techniques, you can learn you can teach yourselves the 20 kinds of orgasms. There's role play. You can try some of the regenerative things like PT-141 peptides and, aphrodisiacs and all these kinds of things. You can do penis and vulva pumping to rejuvenate atrophy and restore your pleasure. And so what I did was I created 48 what I like to call erotic play dates, because I think if you ask for sex, it's like, oh, we're going to do that thing he always does. But if you ask to set time where you're going to create the lover space for an erotic play date, and you have your sex life bucket list, then you have all these great things you might want to try. And the sex life bucket list, it's at sexlifebucketlist.com, of course, and you print out the PDF and you watch my video together. It's free. And I go through, you mark each one of the 48 erotic play dates with an A, a B, or a C. So you write, you might choose these as A's, and I would choose these as A's. I would have some B's, which are, well, Michael, if you wanted to do it, I would totally do it with you. It's just not on my A list, but I'm game, I'm down,
Right.
And C's are, it's not for me right now. Because never say never. The more confidence you gain, the things you used to look at and go, I don't even get why anybody does that. Now you're like, oh, this is what my fantasies are thinking about now. It's like totally turning me on. Now I want to try it. So once you have your A list, you merge it, and now you've got your plan for your erotic play dates, and you can go, is there one you want to do on Thursday, or do you want to just see what we feel like? Oh no, I definitely want to do blah, blah, blah on Thursday. Okay. You get there on Thursday and you're like, you know what? I changed my mind. That's not the one I want to do. I want to do a different one. Okay. Like they're all A's. It doesn't matter to me. We'll just go where mommy wants to go. And it could be daddy that wants to go someplace, and mommy's the flexible one. For me and my world, this is what has worked as my dynamic. Your mileage may vary. You do you, boo. But I think the sex life bucket list, if you have one of those now, you've got the foundation of safety plus the novelty and variety for that upward pleasure spiral. Boom.
Susan, what is the thing you wish people would ask you that they don't normally, or maybe aren't brave enough to usually?
People ask me everything.
Oh, that's great.
One of the things that I do is I have a newsletter at betterlover.com, and I explain to people that their questions are what made me good at what I do. And I'm not a therapist. I don't sit in an office and meet with people or do Zoomies or anything like that. I'm an author of passionate lovemaking techniques. And so when people ask me questions, they usually just reply to my email. It goes right to my inbox, and I give them a thoughtful and considered answer that almost always comes from articles I've written, another ebook, watch this video, or sometimes I have to be like, tell me more, explain this to me. Right. And when they explain it to me, I'm like, oh, okay, I see what you're saying. Right, okay. And they're usually 9 times out of 10, they are simple things. They think they're the only one who has this issue, and it's super common, and they think there's something weird about them. That's the majority of what I get is very, very easy. Every once in a while, I get something that's a little harder. Complex medical issues, long-seated anger, and those are things where often I have to say, you actually need to go to a urologist, babe, or you need a sexologist or a sex therapist to unwind this. This is trauma we're talking about. I do the pleasure piece of it. And one of the nice things, though, is that, and I'll leave you with this, and that is that everybody's got trauma. And the way that you change your course and move through trauma is like sex techniques. Whatever your intuition tells you is the thing that will help you the most. Somatic experience technique, EMDR, talk therapy, a hands-on dakini to give you G-spot de-armoring. There's a million modalities for therapeutic momentum and processing. Just do what's right. At the same time, speak out what has not been working. Share it with your friends, share it with your love. Really voice what went wrong and how you were hurt, because you need to be witnessed for it. Because until you explain it, you can't fully understand it in a way that you can remedy. The third piece is where I come in, which is, and a lot of times talk therapy is the witnessing piece. Right? A safe place to really say what happened to you, like sexual assault and things like that. They need to be in a safe space by someone who knows how to handle it. But the third piece is where I come in, which is where you rewrite the story of who you are sexually by learning the communication skills, learning the techniques, getting over the shame, and discovering the amazing capacity, the orgasmic, intimate capacity your body has, and how good that feels, and how cleansing and healing that is. So that's really the kind of the thing that I'd like to leave people with, is that you can do these all concurrently. You can have trauma and have a sex life bucket list, as a matter of fact, that supports your healing and growth. So these things work well together.
Let me ask you these final questions. I'm
Sure.
very fascinated by this because I think that's so important. I think a big part of the pressure people feel is the thing that they are ashamed of, or the shame they've been carrying for years, or a bad experience they had, usually with somebody who didn't take care of them and treat them properly and communicate properly, that now that they're worried about. Because part of this conversation allows you to move through that and, again, drop some of the defenses, figure out, is there a medical reason? Is there a biological reason? Is it a trauma reason? Whatever it is, let's start to work through those things so that we can start to move them, not necessarily out, but to the side where they're safe, so that we can start moving past them and through them.
Yeah.
For you, at this stage of your career, first, I think I heard you say one time that you're a nerdy girl who likes hot sex. Is that you're right? And a science
Slut for science.
Those are wonderful descriptors. I usually ask people, what are the 3 words that describe them?
There you go.
So if you were going to break you down into like 3 key words, what would they be?
Intimacy powers longevity.
Oh, beautiful. And then how do you define success at this point, Susan, after all this time?
The joy in my heart from helping people. My heart is
beautiful.
full of love from the people who I've helped.
Okay, and then what's the legacy you want them to take?
Oh, God, just to feel good about their sexuality and to live a long, healthy, happy life.
You are you're bright and light and kind of effervescent in this. There's a beauty in embracing both your sexuality, but just your willingness to share and be open and help people heal. Obviously, there's some taboo parts of this to other people. Can you speak to the part where it's like, no, this isn't taboo and it's not something you should be ashamed about. This is purpose and it's beautiful.
Once you turn that corner of fully enjoying the pleasure and being able to sustain being in pleasure and not feeling ashamed about that pleasure, that it grows and grows and grows exponentially. Just like learning how to love. Your heart is a muscle and a door. It's a muscle because the more you love, the better you get at loving. And I'm such a better lover now, and not bisexually, but just by like loving people. And it was probably not even until I was in my 50s where I really started getting good at loving and expanding my heart. And I know for many people, the heart, because it's a muscle and a door, that door slams shut sometimes, and it really hurts. But it doesn't mean you should not open it back up and love again. So it's the same kind of thing. Practice. One key takeaway from this entire segment with Michael is practice. Just pick some things. Pick what called to you and practice it.
Thank you for opening your heart. Thank you for being on A Lighthouse in the Dark. Such a pleasure, Susan.
I loved it, Michael. Thank you so much. It was great to be with you.